Hello guys! Welcome to another lecture. Ang lecture naman natin or ang final or send of coaching naman natin na subject for today is crop protection. Tapos na tayo for dun sa last three na subjects. Dun naman na tayo sa first three na subject during your exam. So, sisimulan natin sa crop protection and then after that, hopefully by tomorrow, makapag-produce ulit ako ng dalawa na pwede niyong reviewin before your exam on Wednesday. So, let's start off. Number one. So, a lot of questions daw sa crop protection from the previous takers ng LEA revolves around the concept of IPM. So, yung mga susunod na question dito, kung mapapansin nyo, puro integrated pest management na. So, for instance, number one, sabi dyan, what is the best? Okay? So, it is looking for the best description of integrated pest management. Remember, ang hinahanap natin dito is something that is the best. Not necessarily correct, but it's the best. Bakit ko sinabi yun? Kasi possible na yung mga choices are wrong, so you need to choose the best answer closest to IPM, or possible na lahat ng mga options na nandun ay correct. Okay? And by that, you need to select the best one that defines integrated pest management as per the question. So dito, what is the best description of integrated pest management? Tingnan natin isa-isa. Sabi sa letter A, using only chemical pesticides to control all pests in the field. So mali na yan kasi alam naman natin ang konsepto ng integrated pest management is more on sustainable practices before using chemical pesticides. So since this one makes use only of chemical pesticides, mali na yung letter A. How about letter C? Okay. So, alam niyo na yung sagot siguro kasi in-skip ko yung sagot. Anyways, letter C, applying pesticides only. So, mali na naman yan. And letter D, eliminating all insects daw from the agricultural ecosystem. Mali. Okay? Hindi sustainable na may eliminate lahat ng insekto sa ecosystem because some insects are actually beneficial. They prey, they prey on your insect pests, and at the same time, they are channels or they are instruments for pollinators. So ang pinakatamang sagot dyan, the best one that describes IPM is letter B, using cultural, biological, mechanical, and chemical together in order to control pests and protect the environment. Okay? So letter B ang tamang sagot dyan. So basically, kapag sinabi nating integrated pest management, with the word integrated, halo-halo yung method dyan. So ano-anong mga method daw yung ginagamit? Cultural, biological, mechanical, and chemical. Okay? Now, you have to understand na yung chemical nilagay sa pinakahuli ng integrated pest management natin because as per the concept of IPM, dapat i-exhaust muna or gagamitin muna natin yung first three means, so cultural, biological, and mechanical, before we treat our field with chemical pesticides. Okay? Next question. Which of the following is not a component of integrated pest management? So, which of the following is not a component? So, hindi daw, no? Hindi component or hindi defining factor, let's say, or hindi characteristic ng integrated pest management. So, letter A, cultural practices, somehow correct. Okay? Why correct? Kasi cultural practices is a means or a method that agriculturists use to practice integrated pest management. So kasama yung cultural means na yan. So tama po ito. Okay? Or partially correct. Okay? It's not, when I say fully correct, it's not defining the total essence or characteristic of IPM, but it provides us an overview of what IPM is. Biological control agents? Yes, tama yan. Gumagamit tayo ng biological control insects, okay? Biocon or biological control. Gumagamit din tayo ng mga products na galing sa halaman in order to control pests. Yes. Regular monitoring and economic threshold, that's letter D. Tama rin yan. Okay? Component po yan ng IPM. Alin ang hindi component? Letter C. Okay? Unrestricted use of synthetic pesticides. Unrestricted, ibig sabihin, wala daw restriction or walang limit. Basta gumamit ka lang ng synthetic pesticide. So, hindi yan kasama kasi nga ang IPM, sabi ko nga kanina, ang IPM in as much as we can, hindi muna dapat tayo gagamit ng chemical. I-exhaust muna natin yung cultural, biological practices, okay? Physical practices bago tayo gumamit ng chemical kapag hindi na talagang kaya ng ibang mga methods na yun. So letter C ang tamang sagot dyan. Number 3, so still sa konsepto ng integrated pest management, what is the economic injury level? So alin kaya dyan ang economic injury level na tinatawag? Okay? So doon sa ating pest monitoring, later on, makikita natin yung term na yan, economic injury level at saka yung economic threshold level. Tama ba? Okay, we'll see. So, ang economic injury level ba is the price of pesticides in the market? No, mali. Okay? Hindi porket narinig nyo yung, nakita nyo yung, nabasa nyo yung economic, presyo ba? Economic yan. Mali po. Okay? EIL does not talk about anything about price. Mali na yan. Letter C, the maximum number of pests allowed in a field for environmental sustainability. So yan kaya ang economic injury level. Now, since economic injury level yan, we need to look at some sort of a definition na mayroong quote-unquote damage. Okay? Kasi injury Diba? Pag sinabi natin injury, may damage, may nasaktan. So ano kaya yung keyword na hinahanap natin dyan? So ito, letter C, the maximum number of pests allowed in a field for environmental sustainability purposes. Wala kang anything na pwede mong i-relate sa injury dyan. Letter B. Okay? Letter B, the number of pests that will completely destroy the crops in the field, yielding any control useless. So yun kaya ang economic injury level, something that will completely destroy the crops in the field. Okay? Yung population daw ng peste, na sisirain talaga yung crops, wala daw matitira. So again, kapag may mga ganito na phrases, completely, only, must, tamang hinala na ulit kayo. Okay? So, maybe, si letter B, maybe, yan, yung tamang sagot. Lagyan natin ng below. Okay? Pero tingnan na muna natin si letter A. The lowest pest population that causes economic damage exceeding the cost of control. So again, kung titignan natin yung injury na hinahanap natin kanina na keyword is nandito, no? Damage. So tama yan. Letter, or for number 3, ang tamang sagot is letter A. The lowest pest population that causes economic damage exceeding the cost of control. Okay? So yan yung number 3 natin. The correct answer is letter A. How about dito sa number 4? In the context of IPM, ano naman daw yung ET, yung economic threshold? So again, letter A, the price at which pesticides become affordable and thus controlled to be economical? Nope. Wala pong kinalaman kahit may presyo tayong keyword dyan. The total cost of pest management in a season after harvest? Nope. Okay? Kapag sinabi natin economic threshold, with regards to IPM, we're not talking here about economics like cost and prices. Hindi po. Letter C, the profit margin from selling a crop. Again, mali. Mga economic concepts yan, pero hindi po yan economic threshold. Now, ano ibig sabihin ng economic threshold? By process of elimination, nakuha natin ngayon yung letter D, which is economic threshold is the pest population level at which control measures should be implemented. So kanina, yung economic injury level, wala na, hindi na effective yung control doon. Because the cost of control is more than the damage already. Dito naman sa economic threshold level, ito naman daw yung level kung saan kailangan ng kontrolin. Yung pest population. Kasi kapag di mo kinontrol, pupunta na siya sa EIL, dun sa economic injury level, hindi mo na siya pwedeng kontrolin dun because yung cost ng pag-control mas mataas na kaysa dun sa damage na naganap dun sa iyo. Yung cost of control is mas mataas na kaysa doon sa damage na experience ng iyong field. No, pag-usapan natin yung ETL na yan at saka yung ETL, economic threshold level, this one, at saka economic injury level. Ngayon, sa integrated pest management, isa talaga sa pinakamahalagang practices dyan, yung pagmomonitor ng pest population. So, one way to do that is to create a graph. Okay? Dito sa y-axis, titignan mo dyan yung number of pests. Tapos, dito naman sa x-axis, yung time. Okay? Ngayon, ipa-plot mo ngayon kung ano yung level ng economic threshold natin at yung level ng economic injury. Now, kapag sinabi ulit natin na economic threshold level, yan yung level na kapag lumampas dyan yung pest population, so kapag lumampas na dyan, sa linya na yan yung pest population, kailangan nang kontrolin yung population ng insect. Okay? So, kunwari, ang economic threshold mo ay 10 grasshoppers per leaves. Nakabilang ka ng 11. So, kapag lampas na yon, lampas na doon sa 10, ano? Okay, let's imagine lang muna, Mag-backtrack tayo, okay? So, let's say ang economic threshold level mo ay 10. So, at 10 grasshoppers per plant, dapat mag-control ka na. Yung economic injury level mo ay 15. Let's say nakahanap ka ngayon ng 12 na grasshopper per plant. Anong desisyon yan? Dapat mag-control ka na. Because it is already beyond your economic threshold level. Mas mataas na siya dun sa economic threshold mo. So at this level, effective pa ang pest control. Pero kapag 16 na yung grasshopper mo per plant, naku, kahit na mag-control ka dyan, mas mataas na yung cost of control kaysa doon sa damage ng iyong crop. So, hayaan mo na lang dyan kapag nalampasan mo na yung economic injury level. So, the point wherein you should control pest population is within this area. Okay? Dapat mas mataas or equal to your economic threshold, but it should not be greater than your economic injury level. Now, siguro, ang tinatanong nyo, how about dito, sir, sa baba? Kung saan mas mababa sa economic threshold yung population. Let's say ang population na nakita mo lang ay 6 grasshoppers per plant. Now, kapag 6 grasshopper per plant, huwag ka na munang mag-control. Okay? No need to spray, no need to do anything. Hayaan mo lang sila because the damage here is so low, okay, in order to justify any control measures. Okay? So, i-monitor mo lang consistently, continuously, monitor mo lang kasi baka naman mayroong mga predatory insects na kumokontrol dun sa insect pests natin. So long as it is below your economic threshold level, you can just let it go. Okay? Let it go. Huwag ka munang magtitreat dyan. Pero once na lumampas na siya dito, lumampas na siya sa economic threshold, pero mas mababa sa economic injury, kailangan mo lang mag-control para pababain ngayon yung population. So kapag kinontrol mo dyan, babagsak ulit yung population ng insekto mo, magiging below economic threshold level ulit siya. Okay? So yan yung konsepto natin ng economic threshold and economic injury level. Again, kapag below ET, no control. Ha? Below ET, no control. Okay, yan yung decision natin. Kapag above ET, but below EIL, okay, dyan po tayo mag-control. Okay, control na yan. Okay? Kapag above EIL already, above economic injury level, hindi na effective ang control dyan. Okay? Bayaan mo na lang kasi sayang lang yung pera mo kapag magko-control ka pa at economic injury level because the damage is too high as compared to the cost. The cost of control is greater than the damage na ginawa ng peste na yun sa iyong pananim. Next question. Which of the following is an example of cultural control in IPM? So, ang hinahanap natin daw is an example of what? Control strategy. Cultural control in IPM. Okay, kapag sinabi natin cultural control, when we say cultural, we're talking here now about the practices of the farmer. So it is about the practices of the farmer that is controlling the insect pest population. So letter A, introducing parasitoid wasp ay yes, practice yan ni farmer, pero technically, yung paggamit niya ng parasitoid wasp na technology is under biological control. Okay? Kasi ang parasitoid wasp, ito ay pumapatay po ng mga peste sa pananim. Application of insecticidal spray. Again, you can say na culture, halos lahat naman ng practices, okay? Halos lahat naman ng ginagawa ni farmer, you can say it as cultural. But this one is more specific to chemical control naman yan. Ganun din po si letter C. Chemical control din yan. So, alin yung practice, ano yung cultural control? Yung cultural control dyan is itong mga to. Okay? Crop rotation, sanitation sa field, removal of crop residues, okay? Yung mga simple na habit na ginagawa ni farmer to keep the farm clean. Yan po yung definition natin ng cultural control. So the correct answer here is letter D. Okay? So what is cultural control? I have created a table here. Something that modifies the growing practices and environmental conditions to prevent pest infestation. For instance, crop rotation. Kasi kapag nag-practice tayo ng crop rotation, nadi-disrupt yung pest life cycle. Instead na sila ay mag-grow to maturity at mangitlog, hindi na yun nangyayari. Okay? Another one, weed control. Okay? Kasi minsan ang inaatake ng mga peste yung mga weeds. Ngayon, kapag sandamakmak yung weeds sa yung pananim, yun ang aatakihin ng peste, aatakihin niya rin yung kapitbahay niya na pananim. Okay? Deep plowing is another one kasi it exposes soil insects naman, katulad ng ating mole cricket. Ano naman yung iba't ibang klase pa ng control? For instance, biological control. Kapag sinabi nating biological control, we are using, the keyword here, natural enemies of our insect pests. Okay? Anong mga enemies yan? They can be classified into predators. Okay? They hunt and kill the insect pests. They can be classified as parasitoids, kung saan they become a parasite to that insect pest. So example ng parasitoid is, meron bang nakalagay dito? Example ng parasitoid is, walang nakalagay dito. In anyways, example ng parasitoid is yung someone na nangingitlog doon sa caterpillar. Yan, parasitoid yan. Later on, pag-uusapan natin yan kasi tanong yun eh. Kaya hindi ko dinagdag dito as an example. Next, microbial organisms. Yes, tama rin. Minsan gagamit tayo ng microbial organisms and magiging sakit yun ng ating insect pest. So those are examples of biological control. Okay? Yung paggamit ng natural enemies ng insekto. Meron din tayo tinatawag na mechanical or physical control. For some textbooks, ang mechanical and physical control nilalagay rin nila under cultural control. Okay? Pero let's differentiate it. Ano ba yung mechanical or physical control? Sabi dito sa definition, the mechanical or physical control directly removes or kills the pest through physical methods without chemical. Okay? So for instance, anong mga physical method yung pwedeng gamitin? Yung pulutin mo yung insekto and i-crush mo sa kamay mo. Right? Hand-picking of pests. Yan. Physical control yan. Or gagamit ka ng traps. Okay? Mga sticky traps para ma-attract yung pest doon. Didikit sila doon at sila'y mamamatay. Yan. Soil solarization. Ibilad mo lang yung lupa sa araw. Mamamatay yung mga mole crickets dyan. Ano pa? Barriers preventing insect entry. Magtayo ka ng greenhouse. So that's a physical barrier to the insect pest. That's also mechanical or physical control. And ito yung favorite nyo, yung chemical control. Hindi naman. Hindi nyo favorite yung chemical control. In anyways, yung chemical control is yan na yung paggamit ng synthetic pesticides. Okay? Synthetic pesticides katulad ng mga herbicides, pesticides, insecticides, fungicides, yan. So yung paggamit ng mga yon in order to kill the insect pests, okay, or the pathogen, chemical control po ang tawag naman dyan. And then, of course, meron tayong konsepto ng integrated pest management. So when we say integrated pest management, lahat ng types ng control na napag-usapan natin kanina, i-combine natin. And kapag pinumbine natin yon, and we are holistically doing it alongside with monitoring the population of insect pests in the field, integrated pest management yan. Again, ang pinaka-konsepto ng integrated pest management is gamitin muna lahat ng control before ka gumamit ng chemical control. Okay? So mag-physical muna, mag-cultural, mag-biological. Ngayon, kapag hindi talaga kaya, sige, pinapayagan na ang chemical control. Kasi ang goal ng integrated pest management is for sustainability. Ngayon, alongside with that concept na last dapat yung chemical control, sa integrated pest management, pinakamahalaga rin yung monitoring ng pest population. Kasi we need to monitor the pest population in order for us to determine if a control is necessary. Sabi ko nga, ang control ay magiging necessary lang kapag ang insect pest population is above the ETL but below the EIN. So dapat binabantayan yung farm, binibilang regularly yung insect pest na nasa farm para mas maging effective yung control natin through integrated pest management. Number 6, what does IWM stand for in relation to crop protection? Ano kaya ang IWM? Integrated Weed Management. Again, in relation to crop protection. Okay? Integrated Water Management, Intense Weed Monitoring, or International Weed Management. So, ang IWM, yan yung IPM, pero directly, ang tina-target natin dyan, ang gusto nating mawala dyan ay yung weeds. So, therefore, ang IWM stands for Integrated Weed Management. So, what is Integrated Weed Management? Kunin mo lang yung definition ng IPM, pero instead of insect pest, what you are controlling is weeds. Okay? So, yung paggamit ng iba't ibang cultural, biological, chemical, physical control in order to control not the insect pest but the weeds, ang tawag natin dyan, Integrated Weed Management. Next, number 7. Which statement best describes biological control? So again, yung keyword natin kanina sa biological control is the use of natural enemies of the insect pest. So hanapin natin, alin ba doon? Alin ba sa mga options matches the definition that we have earlier about biological control? Letter A, replacing all pests with beneficial insects. So yan ba yung gusto nating mangyari? And replacing all pests with animals to destroy the pests. Parang hindi nagme-make sense, ano? Because we cannot replace all pests. That's impossible. Okay? Using biological pesticides derived from plants such as neem oil. Okay? Pero ito kasi pesticides, that's still organic pesticides, under chemical control pa rin po ito. Okay, kahit na sabihin mong biological pesticide yan. Okay? So long as that is a pesticide, it's still a chemical control. Prohibiting the use of any chemical pesticides. Hindi rin. Although this is a good thing. Okay? Yan yung konsepto ng organic farming natin. Pero hindi yan yung necessary na paggamit ng natural pest to control insect pest population. How about letter D? Using insects and microorganisms to naturally suppress pest population. Okay, so this one is the correct answer. Ito yung pinaka-the best na answer that matches yung ating definition sa biological control kanina, yung paggamit ng natural enemies ng insect pests in order to control their population. Letter D. Number 8. When implementing IPM strategies, monitoring is essential because, nabanggit ko na yan, ano yung purpose ng monitoring? Bakit mahalaga yung monitoring? Letter A, to determine if pesticides need to be applied or not to be applied. Yes, di ba? Yes, tama yan. Kasi kapag namo-monitor natin yung insect pest population, we can now determine whether we need to apply a specific control, control, like yung paggamit ng pesticide, which is a chemical control. So yes, we can say that this is correct. How about letter D? To decrease pesticide use and increase the use of other control methods? Yun ba yung, well, ito yung purpose ng IPM, yes, pero ang tinatanong is, ano daw yung purpose ng monitoring? So, we can say that this is correct. That's a purpose of IPM, but this is only partially correct. Kasi we need to focus on the question. Why is monitoring essential? Yun yung question. Letter C. To ensure crop success and avoid crop failure whenever possible. Well, yes. If you monitor your pest population, we are ensuring crop success whenever possible. So that's one way for us to monitoring and controlling pests, or monitoring the population of the pests, can help us succeed in our crop production practices. Oh, yes. Oh, tama na si A, tama si C, si D, partially correct. How about si letter B? To establish pest population trends and determine when intervention is needed. So si letter B, yan yung pinakatamang sagot. So bakit pinakatamang sagot si letter B? Kasi remember, ang tinatanong, bakit mahalaga ang monitoring? Sa letter B, sinabi niya kung ano mismo ang monitoring. What is monitoring? Establish pest population trends. Make sure mo na, bibilang mo yung population ng peste doon sa iyong field. Okay? Yun yung monitoring. And then, dinagdagan niya, pest population, establishing pest population trends and determining when intervention is needed. Kasi ang purpose nga naman ng monitoring is to determine or para malaman natin kung kailan tayo mag-i-implement ng control strategy. And again, kailan tayo mag-i-implement ng control strategy? Kapag above ETL but it should be below EIL. Number 9. Which of the following represents the correct sequence in the IPM decision-making process? So, ano daw yung pinaka nagpapakita dyan, ng correct sequence when it comes to IPM. So, letter A, tingnan natin si letter A. Apply pesticide, monitor, mali na. Sipin mo, mag-apply ka ng pesticide, tapos imo-monitor mo, and then saka mo lang i-identify yung peste. Eh, paano kapag yung in-apply mong pesticide ay hindi kalaban ng peste na yon? Right? So, hindi nagme-make sense. Right? Letter B, identify pest. Okay, somehow correct. So, alamin mo muna, ano ba yung peste sa iyong halamanan? Monitor its population. Yes, nagme-make sense, Alam mo na yung pest, ano kaya yung kanyang population. I-compare mo daw sa ETL or EIL. Okay, tama. Kasi titignan mo yung population, nasaan na ba siya in comparison to the economic threshold and economic injury level, and then decide on the control. So this sequence makes sense. Okay, so we can say that that is the correct one. Letter C, apply pesticide na naman, mali na nga eh. Dapat hindi yan yung pinakauna. Okay? Ang pinakauna dapat is either identify the pest or monitor the population. Okay? Ito, letter D. Monitor, okay. Consider the results, okay. And then apply pesticides randomly. Mali! Okay? Bakit siya naging mali? Kasi you are going to apply pesticides daw randomly. Ang purpose ng IPM is not to apply pesticide, but to determine whether you need to implement a control or not. Now, the control could either be chemical, that is the use of pesticides, but it could also be using other means, katulad ng cultural, biological, and physical control. So, ang tamang sagot dyan, yung pinaka nagme-make sense ay letter B, okay? Letter B ang tamang sagot. So, ito, papakita sa illustration na to, yung 5 steps of IPM. Now, the steps of IPM is definitely, hindi siya fixed. Okay? Some literature would say na ang pinakauna is pest identification. Some literature would say ang pinakauna is monitoring. Pero, basta naiintindihan nyo kung ano ang purpose ng IPM, masasagot nyo yung tanong na yun. Basta, ang pinakaunang step lagi ng IPM is, syempre, determine muna ano ba yung peste and you monitor the population. And then you use that now, the data, on the population of the insect, you compare it to the ETL and EIL, and then saka ka mag-decide kung magpo-control ka. So for some, ang first step nila is to establish yung benchmark nila in terms of ETL and EIL. Yun yung pinaka-first step. Okay? And then, monitor yung population, saka magde-decide kung anong control. So, it doesn't matter, pero yung principle or the spirit of IPM is still there naman, nandun sa sequence na yun. Pero kapag sinabi mong mag-apply agad ng ng pesticide, bay mali na po yun. Okay? Kasi, again, ang spirit nga ng IPM is more on determining, first, yung insect pest population, titignan kung nasa ETL level ba siya, at saka ka tayo magde-decide kung ano ba yung ating control na gagamitin. Number 10, ako na tayo sa nematode. What type of nematode parasitism occurs when the nematode feeds on roots from the outside of the root tissue? So, ang tinatanong, a mode of nematode parasitism, kung saan yung nematode daw na ito ay nasa labas ng root tissue. So anong nematode parasitism kaya yan? Endoparasitic, migratory parasitic, semi-endoparasitic, or ectoparasitic? So before we can answer this, let us now determine the different types of nematode parasitism. So when we say nematode parasitism, paano ba kinakain or dinadamage ng nematode yung halaman? So there are different strategies, no? Merong iba't ibang parasitism style yung ating nematode, or we can also call it this as their feeding strategy. Okay? So pag sinabi nating endoparasitic, yung nematode po natin ay kumakain basically kasi nasa loob na siya nung system. So with the word N, yan, yung N na yan, ibig sabihin inside. Yan. Okay? So the insect or the nematode is inside the root system and dun siya kumakain. Isipin nyo, nasa loob siya ng bahay, doon siya kumakain. Kapag sinabi mo namang migratory parasitic, this is when nematodes move freely through soil and plant tissues, feeding on multiple sites without establishing permanent feeding locations. Okay? So migratory kasi, yung nematode natin, kapag siya ay gumagalaw, ibig sabihin, kung ang roots ng halaman ay parang bahay, yung migratory parasitic nematode natin ay kumakain sa kusina, kumakain sa sala, kumakain sa kwarto, kumakain sa CR. Ay nagmamigrate siya, iba't iba yung kanyang feeding points. Okay? Now, ano ang opposite ng migratory parasitic? Ang opposite ng migratory parasitic is yung tinatawag nating sedentary. Okay? Yung sedentary, yun yung nematode na isa lang yung feeding location niya. So kung kakain siya sa kusina lang siya, hindi na siya palipat-lipat. Okay? So ang opposite ng migratory natin is sedentary. Sedentary. Okay? And then meron din tayong tinatawag na semi-endoparasitic. So N meaning it is feeding inside the roots. Okay? So inside the roots. But ginamit yung word na semi. So, kumakain siya sa loob ng root system ng halaman, but basically, hindi doon sa pinakaloob-looban ng roots. Dito sa definition, sabi diyan, semi-endoparasitic nematodes, okay, they penetrate permanently into the root cortex while the posterior end remains exposed in the soil. So, basically, yung ulo nila, nakapasok doon sa roots, pero yung kanilang katawan nandun sa labas ng roots. So, semi-endoparasitic. Hindi talaga siya nakapasok. Kumbaga, kumakain lamang siya doon sa garahe ng bahay. Yan. And then, yung opposite ni endoparasitic is yung tinatawag nating ectoparasitic. So, when you say ec, ang isipin nyo dyan, ec, no? Ang isipin nyo, exit. Exit. Sa labas ng root system. So ito yung mga nematodes that feed externally on the root surface. So they are scraping the root surface. So kumbaga, kumakain sila sa labas ng bahay. Yung kanilang ulo, basically, yung kanilang feeding mouth part, ini-scrape lang nila yung labas ng roots. Ectoparasitic ang tawag dyan. So ito yung iba't ibang mga feeding strategy or parasitism method ng mga nematodes natin. Ectoparasites, semi-endo, migratory, sedentary, and then ito yung mga examples nila. Okay? So again, pag sinabing ecto sa labas, semi-endo means yung ulo nasa loob ng roots pero yung katawan nasa labas. Migratory means iba-iba yung kanyang feeding point. So possible na yung nematode mo is migratory and endoparasitic. Ibig sabihin, nasa loob siya ng roots, tapos siya ay gumagalaw, paiba-iba yung kanyang kinakainan. Or possible rin na migratory yung nematode mo, pero ectoparasite siya. Nasa labas siya ng roots, pero siya ay nagalaw. Okay? Ini-scrape niya yung tip ng roots, and then mamaya pupunta siya dun sa gitna, and then mamaya pupunta siya dun sa mas makapal na part ng roots. Okay? Pwede rin yun. Meron din tayong tinatawag na sedentary endoparasites naman. So sedentary endoparasites yan yung mga Meloidogyne natin, Heterodera, Nacobus. Okay? So kayo naman basically magbasa dyan. Pero itong mga sedentary endoparasites, once na makapasok sila dun sa roots ng halaman, dun lang sila. Okay? So they will feed, uubusin nila yung nutrients na nandun lang sila. Tamad, kumbaga. Sila ay tinatamad. And then, meron kang examples dito ng mga nematodes that feed on stem and bulbs. Meron kang tinatawag na seed gall nematodes. So kapag tinanong kayo sa exam, ano yung seed gall nematodes? Ang tamang sagot dyan agad, amoy na. And then foliar nematodes or yung mga nematodes na nasa dahon ng halaman. These are aphelenchoides. Okay? So ang tamang sagot dyan, what type of nematode parasitism occurs when the nematode feeds on the roots from the outside? So nasa labas ng roots, ectoparasitic yan. So with the word ec, again, pag sinabing exit, yung isipin nyo, nasa labas kumakain. So ectoparasitic nematodes yan. Next, number 11, the reproduction of nematodes where unfertilized eggs develop into males and fertilized eggs develop into females. Okay? Oh, weird nito, no? Yung nematode pala natin, kapag yung itlog niya ay unfertilized, so ibig sabihin, walang sperm at saka egg na nag-meet. Minsan, puproduce siya ng males. Pero kapag yung itlog ay fertilized, ibig sabihin may meeting of gametes, nagpuproduce siya ng females. Ano kaya yung tawag doon sa reproduction ng nematode na yun? Na kapag yung itlog ay unfertilized, males, pero kapag yung itlog ay fertilized, females naman ang nilalabas. Ang tawag ba doon ay parthenogenesis, amphimictic reproduction, hermaphroditism, or arenotochus reproduction. So isa-isahin natin itong mga definition na to. So kapag sinabi nating parthenogenesis, ito ay asexual reproduction kung saan, okay, kahit walang male gamete, kahit wala kang sperm, let's say, nagkakaroon pa rin ng reproduction. Yan. So isipin nyo, virgin birth. Okay? Walang fertilization na nangyari, yung babae lang, walang any male gametes na pumasok sa kanya, pero siya'y nakapag-produce pa rin, parthenogenesis. Virgin birth or female-only reproduction. Kapag sinabi naman natin na amphimictic reproduction, yan yung normal na alam natin na concept ng reproduction, lalo na sa tao. Okay? So, ang amphimictic reproduction sa tao means dapat may babae at lalaki. And their gametes should unite in order for fertilization to occur and for reproduction to occur. Amphimictic yan. So, dapat meron kang lalaki, meron kang babae in order for the reproduction to take place. And then, meron kang tinatawag na hermaphroditism. So, sa hermaphroditism naman, meron kang isang organism, tapos yung organism na to, meron siyang male and female reproductive organs. Therefore, kaya niyang makapag-produce ng sa kanya lang. Kasi meron siyang male gametes and meron siyang female gametes, pwede niyang i-combine yun, pwede siyang makapag-reproduce. Hermaphroditism po ang tawag dyan. Yung arenotochus reproduction naman, ito yung reproduction, particularly sa mga nematodes, kung saan, kapag yung itlog ng nematode ay unfertilized, nakakapag-produce ng males. So kapag walang union of gametes, males ang inilalabas niyang anak through parthenogenesis. Kasi basically, parthenogenesis means female-only birth. So kapag hindi na-fertilize yung egg ng babae, nakakapag-produce siya ng males. Arenotochus reproduction. Pero paano kapag na-fertilize? Kapag na-fertilize naman, ang pinoproduce niya, female nematodes. So doon sa tanong na ito, the reproduction of nematodes where unfertilized eggs develop into males and fertilized eggs develop into females, tawag dyan, arenotochus reproduction. Okay? Arenotochus reproduction. Number 12, insect order. What insect order includes grasshoppers, locusts, crickets, okay, which are known to be rich in protein. So ano kayang insect order yan? Grasshopper. Ano ang insect order ng grasshopper? Letter, kapag nagre-review kayo, ang sagot dyan, letter B, Orthoptera. Orthoptera yan. Number 13, which insect order includes butterflies and moths naman? So, butterfly at moth, ang insect order niyan ay letter C, Lepidoptera. Okay? So ito yung iba't ibang mga common na insect orders kasama yung kanilang key characteristics and examples as well. So nilagay ko na rin siya sa table para may ma-review kayo. So for instance, Lepidoptera, anong examples yan? Butterflies and moths. They are insects with larvae. Kapag yung larvae nila mayroong chewing mouth parts, okay? They are voracious feeders and they cause damage to your crops. So example ng lepidopterans natin na insect pest primarily is yung DBM, diamond back moth, armyworm, rhizostem borer, etc. One way to think about it, pag sinabi nating lepidoptera, they are the ones na may caterpillar. Ang kanilang type of metamorphosis is Colometabolous. Coleoptera naman, these are your beetles. Hemiptera, these are your true bugs like your brown plant hopper, green leaf hopper, rice black bug, white flies, mealybugs, etc. Diptera, these are your flies, yung mga langaw natin. Okay? Like maggots. Pag insect pest ang pinag-uusapan, stem-boring flies, or yung mga Drosophilidae natin. Orthoptera, yan yung ating mga grasshoppers and crickets. So they do have strong chewing mouthparts and they consume leaves and panicles. Mayaman din ito sa protina, basically. Thysanoptera are your thrips. Homoptera, these are, dati, they are known as Hemiptera, pero minerge na sila sa Homoptera. Ito yung mga piercing sucking feeders natin, like mealybugs, scale insects, okay? Hymenoptera, yan naman yung mga beneficial insects natin, pollinators natin, katulad ng bees, yan. Hymenoptera. Neuroptera, these are your lacewings, antlions. Okay, these are also beneficial predators of small insects. Isoptera, okay, dati, ngayon, it is already classified as Blattodea. Yan yung ating mga termites. Okay? So yung termites natin, dati, ang order niya is Isoptera. Pero kung tatanungin na kayo sa exam kung ano ang order ng termites, ang sagot na dyan, Blattodea. Ang termites ay kasing insect order na niya ang Apis. Ang Apis ay under order Blattodea. Okay? Now, if you're still confused here, please make sure na balikan nyo yung lesson nyo on insect orders. Mas detailed po yung explanation ko doon. And I think may mga keywords din ako na ginamit doon para mas madali nyo maintindihan or ma-memorize yung mga iba't ibang insect orders. Number 14. Which of the following is the parasitoid commonly associated with controlling diamond back moths? Okay? So, ano kaya daw yung parasitoid that controls DBM? So, this one, this insect, this parasitoid is used, this insect is used as what type of control? Dahil parasitoid yan, ang tawag dyan, biological control siya. Ano? Ngayon, ang kinokontrol daw ng parasitoid na ito is ano? Diamond back moth. So yan ba ay Trichogramma, Bacillus thuringiensis, Beauveria, Bassiana, or Diategma? Okay? So ito yung sinasabi ko sa inyo kanina na parasitoid. Okay? Anyways, isa-isahin natin yung mga yan. Trichogramma. So Trichogramma is a parasitoid. Okay? So tama na. Sa first statement ng ating question kanina. Kasi ang Trichogramma, they are parasitoid. They are tiny wasp, tapos ang gagawin ng itlog na yan, okay? Ang gagawin ng wasp na yan, mangingitlog sila doon sa itlog ng Lepidopteran pest. Okay? So, these are tiny wasp. Pupuntahan nila ngayon yung Lepidopteran pest. Ipaparasitize sila yun, mangingitlog sila doon. Yun yung Trichogramma. So, ang kinokontrol ng Trichogramma, specifically, is, yung pinaka-target nila, is the eggs, okay, of moths and butterflies, or eggs of Lepidopterans insect pests. Pero ang tinatanong dun sa question is, a parasitoid that controls DBM daw. Okay, so let's see. Ang Bacillus thuringiensis naman is not a parasitoid, but rather it is a bacterium. Okay? It is an entomopathogenic microorganism. Ibig sabihin, yan ay isang bacteria that causes sickness to your pathogen. Yan. So, Bacillus thuringiensis yan. Ang Beauveria bassiana is also an entomopathogenic organism. Particularly, fungi siya. So, ito ay fungi It is a fungal pathogen to infect your insect pests. So, hindi siya fungal pathogen to infect your plants, pero siya ay fungi that infects the insect pests. Beauveria bassiana yan. How about yung diadegma? Ito, okay, yung diadegma is a parasitoid wasp din, katulad ng ating trichogramma kanina. Pero ang diadegma, ang pinaka tina-target niyan is that they lay their eggs in the larva, not the egg. Remember yung trichogramma, nililay niya yung itlog niya sa itlog. Ang diadegma naman, nililay niya yung itlog sa larva ng diamond back moths. Okay? So, regarding this question, which of the following is the parasitoid associated with controlling DBM in its larval stage? Okay? Or yung ating Plutella xylostella, tamang sagot dyan, diadegma. Ay, diadegma. Ang diadegma at trichogramma, parehas yan na parasitoid. Ang pagkakaiba nila, si trichogramma, ang pinaparasitoids, siya ay parasitoid ng itlog. Si diadegma si diadegma naman siya ay parasitoid ng larva. Okay? So that's how you think about differentiating trichogramma and diadegma. Number 15. What is the primary pest affecting strawberry plantations in Mountain Province? So alin kaya ang peste daw ng strawberry sa Mountain Province? Fruit flies, spider mites, beetles, or grasshoppers? So ang sagot dyan is spider mites. Okay? So spider mites, yan yung peste ng ating strawberry sa Mountain Province. In fact, it is the pest of strawberry as well sa La Trinidad Benguet. And ang spider mites, okay, ang kumokontrol po sa spider mites is yung tinatawag nating Phytocelus persimilis. Okay? Or, we call that predatory mites. So, itong mga predatory mites natin, pinapatay nila, hinahunting nila yung spider mites and they kill it. So, pag-usapan lang natin konti, or I will just be presenting to you a table here of key biocontrol agents as categorized kung yan ba ay fungi, yan ba ay biocontrol, yan ba ay parasitoid, yan ba ay predator, etc. So, under fungal biocontrol agents, ito yung mga pinaka-importante yung tandaan, yung trichoderma natin. So, ang trichoderma natin is basically a fungi, and ang ginagawa niyan is they compete with other fungi in the soil. But they are beneficial fungi for your plants. Pero, nakikipagkompetensya sila in getting nutrients with other fungal phytopathogens. Okay? Beauveria bassiana, yan yung nabanggit natin kanina. This is an entomopathogenic fungus. Naman. Metharrhizium anisoplay, soil-dwelling and above-ground insect pest yung kanyang target. So, entomopathogenic fungus din siya. Lecanicilium lecani, fungal biocontrol agent. Naman siya, ang target niya is aphids, whiteflies, and thrips. So, mapapansin nyo dito sa apat na example, si trichoderma lang yung ang target pest niya ay hindi insect pest, but rather it is a pathogen or it's a phytopathogen or plant pathogen. Mga parasitoid biocontrol agents naman, ito siguro yung mga tatandaan nyo, yung diadegma, ang target niya is si DBM or yung Plutella xylostella natin. We also have Comperiella calwanica. Yan naman yung ginagamit na parasitoid ng coconut scale insect. Hamblettonia pseudococcina or yung parasitoid wasp. Ang tinatarget naman niya is pineapple pest mealybug. And Trichogramma species. Ang Trichogramma species, again, ang tinatarget niya ay mga itlog. Itlog nino, itlog ng sugarcane stem borers and some Lepidopterus pests. Yung mga predatory na biocontrol naman natin, nandyan yung earwigs to control mealybugs. Nandyan yung mga predatory mites to control spider mites. Ladybugs is a very, very important predatory insect na more than likely natural lang sa environment. Siya ang kumakain ng mga aphids. Lacewings, they also kill aphids, whiteflies, and other small pests. So, predator sila ng mga peste na yan. And some water striders or mirid bugs, they target plant hoppers, leaf hoppers, and general rice pests. Ano naman yung mga biocontrol agents that are bacteria? Yung mga bacteria, kanina yung fungi, ano naman yung mga bacteria? Yung mga bacillus species natin. Okay? So they promote growth to your plants. They suppress the disease in your plants. So they are very, very efficient and effective. Yung mga actinomycetes natin, these are also bacteria. They also promote growth promotions. They also promote the growth of your plant, and they are still, bacteria pa rin po sila. Usually itong mga bacillus at saka actinomycetes natin, particularly itong actinomycetes natin, it is not necessarily damaging the insect pest, but it is making your plant stronger to resist the damage of your insect pest. Although itong bacillus, yan talaga yung toxin sa insect pest. So kapag may bacillus yung ating crop at kinain yan ng insect pest, manghihina, malalason yung insect pest na kumain sa kanya. How about some entomopathogenic nematodes? Okay? Entomopathogenic nematode, or yung mga nematode natin that damages insect pest naman. So we have Heterorhabditis indica. Ang target niyan is mga Lepidopterus pests. So they are nematodes of these pests, insect pests. So they are nematodes of, hindi sila nematodes ng halaman, but rather nematodes sila ng insekto. Kasama na din dyan yung Stenernema abasi. So I would suggest still, kaya ako itinabularized, okay? Kaya ako nilagay sa table itong mga to para may babasahin kayo and ma-refresh yung memory nyo on the different biological control agents, okay, that are used for crop protection. Number 16, which of the following is a pre-emergence herbicide? So kapag sinabi nating pre-emergence herbicide, yan na yung herbicides na hindi na nyo patutubuin pa yung weeds. Okay? So when we say herbicide, it is a chemical used to suppress the growth of weeds. So ang tamang sagot dyan is letter C, Butachlor. Okay? So Butachlor is a pre-emergence herbicide. Your paraquat, glyphosate, and 2,4-D, these are not pre-emergence herbicide. How about yung paraquat mo? O, paraquat. Ano naman ang classification ng paraquat? Ang paraquat is a post-emergence herbicide. Okay? So, hindi siya pre-emergence, post-emergence siya. Ibig sabihin, paglaki ng weeds, saka mo i-spray, saka mamamatay yung weeds. Naka-emerge na yung weeds, basically. Saka mo siya papatayin ng paraquat. Your 2,4-D, yan, another option kanina, is a post-emergence herbicide din yan. Ang pinagkaiba lang ng 2,4-D sa paraquat is ang paraquat mo post-emergence contact herbicide. So, ibig sabihin, upon contact, the weed will die. Yung isa naman, post-emergence siya pero selective and systemic. Ibig sabihin, yung chemical na to papasok mismo dun sa katawan ng weeds. Okay? Papasok siya dun sa katawan ng weeds and it will kill it. So let's classify some herbicides by different criteria. So for instance, ano yung dalawang classification ng herbicides by application timing? Meron tayong tinatawag na pre-emergent herbicide and post-emergent herbicide. Anong pinagkaiba nila? Pag sinabi natin pre-emergent yung herbicide, they are applied to the soil before the weeds emerge. So wala pa, hindi pa nag-germinate yung weeds ng herbicide natin. But you apply it to prevent emergent of those weeds. Meron naman tayong tinatawag na post-emergent herbicide. So, ang post-emergent herbicides, nag-sprout na, nag-germinate na yung ating weeds, lumabas na siya, saka mo i-apply yung herbicide. So, you can classify your herbicide whether that be a pre-emergent or a post-emergent herbicide. So, later on, ipapakita ko sa inyo yung table that classifies the different herbicides according to application timing and according to different categories. So ano pa yung classification ng herbicides? According to Kung ito is according to application timing, what is the classification of herbicides naman according to selectivity? So according to selectivity, meron tayong tinatawag na selective herbicides and we have non-selective or broad spectrum herbicides. So kapag sinabi nating selective, basically meron silang specific na weed na kinokontrol. So they are very, very selective. Namimili sila kung ano yung ikokontrol nila na weed. Whereas kapag sinabi mo naman non-selective or broad spectrum, kahit ano, basta ma-sprayan yan, pwedeng mamatay. Okay? Now, ang selective herbicides, sabi dito, they are made to control specific weeds or weed categories without damaging the desired crops. Ang non-selective, kapag na-spray mo yan doon sa pananim mo, maaaring mamatay rin yung pananim mo. Okay? Kasi nga, di siya namimili. Okay? Yung selective herbicides mo, yan yung hitman. Okay? Meron siyang target. Yung non-selective, yan yung mass shooter. Okay? Wala siyang target. Basically. How about classification of herbicides by mobility? Okay? Now, kapag sinabi natin classification of herbicides by mobility, dalawa lang ulit yan. We have contact or translocated, or we call translocated as systemic. So yung contact herbicides, they kill only the plant parts with which they come into direct contact with. So, mamamatay yung plant part na na-sprayan. Okay? Contact herbicide yun. Yung translocated, mamamatay yung buong halaman. Bakit? Kasi yung herbicide na yan, i-absorb ng halaman and then iikot yan dun sa kanyang system, particularly dun sa kanyang xylem and phloem system. So contact, na-touch lang yung halaman, tapos yung part ng halaman na na-touch, yun yung mamamatay. Isipin nyo kapag kayo na-sunburn, nagkaroon ng contact damage yung sun sa inyong balat. Yan. Pero kapag kapag kayo ay nakakain naman ng something that is cancerous, papasok yan sa katawan nyo, iikot yan, translocated or systemic herbicide naman yan. So ito yung iba't ibang mga herbicides that are common here in the Philippines. So for instance, yung mga examples natin kanina, yung glyphosate, 2,4-D, paraquat, at saka butachlor, nandito yung classification niya in terms of application timing. Nandyan yung kanyang selectivity, whether selective or non-selective or broad spectrum. And nandyan din yung kanyang mobility, whether translocated or systemic or a contact herbicide. So kayo na lang po magbasa dyan, ha? Pero hinighlight ko actually yung mga lumabas kanina doon sa ating Q&A. Kasi possible rin na lumabas siya during the exam. Kasi I have collected some data ng mga nag-exam last season. And ito yung mga question daw na natatandaan nila during their exam sa crop protection. So, share ko lang din ulit sa inyo. So, ito, again, herbicide name, nandyan na yung application timing, nandyan yung kanyang selectivity, and nandyan din yung mobility para mas madali nyo makita and mas madali nyo ma-memorize yung classifications of the different herbicides. Number 19. Weeds are classified into groups based on their life cycle. Okay, so nagbigay siya ng statement. Ang weeds daw, they are classified into groups base sa kanilang life cycle. The question is, which category includes weeds that live for more than 2 growing season? So ano daw ang tawag doon sa weeds that live for more than 2 growing seasons? Yan ba ay annual, biennial, perennial, or ephemeral weeds? So tamang sagot dyan, C, no? Perennial weeds. So ano ba kasi yung classification of weeds by its life cycle? So, tatlo lang yan. Annual weeds, biennial weeds, and perennial weeds. So when we say the weed is annual, they complete their entire life cycle from seed to producing a seed within a single year or season. So nakukumpleto na nila yung life cycle nila. Nakukumpleto nila yung life cycle nila in 1 growing season and in 1 year. Ang biennial naman, meron silang 2 growing seasons in their life cycle. So specifically, 2 growing season, no? Kaya biennial. Perennial, more than 2 years. Okay, medyo matatagal sila na type of weeds. You can also classify your weeds based on morphology. So, based on morphology, tatlo din yan, grass, sedge, or broadleaf. Kapag sinabi nating grass, usually yan yung family Poaceae. They are monocots with a single seed leaf that emerges from the soil. Yung sedges mo naman, they are also monocots but are distinct from true grasses. Ano kaya pinagkaiba nila? Kapag hinati mo, cross-section ng grass, ang makikita mo sa grass bilog. Kapag hinati mo naman yung cross-section ng sedge, ang makikita mo dyan, triangle. Okay? So, kumari, ito yung halaman. Yan. So, chinap mo yan, yung shape na nandyan, kapag bilog, grass yan. Kapag naman sedge, triangle, yung makikita yung shape doon. Ang broadleaf, these are dicotyledonous weeds. So, basically, broadleaf, with the word broadleaf, ibig sabihin, yung kanilang dahon ay hindi parang grass, kundi malalapad. So, instead na maninipis na parang grass, or parang sedge, yung dahon nila, malalapad. Okay? So, therefore, you can also classify your weeds by the number of cotyledons. We have monocots. Uso yan sa mga grass and sedges. And then we have dicots na uso naman sa mga broad leaves. You can also classify your weeds based on their mode of propagation. Sexual, kapag sila ay nagpo-produce ng seeds that are being dispersed. Okay, yun yung means of reproduction nila, yung seeds mismo. Or asexual naman, kapag ang gamit is mga modified stems like rhizomes, stolons, roots like tubers or other vegetative propagules, or bulbs and worms. Weeds can also be classified based on their parasitism. Meron tayong, for example, tinatawag na obligate parasite. Ang obligate parasite weeds natin, they require infection of a host plant to survive shortly after their germination. Okay? So, obligate parasite, ibig sabihin, kailangan talaga nila ng host para mag-survive sila. Yung facultative natin, hindi nila necessarily kailangan ng host. Pero kapag nandyan yung host, they will parasitize that host. And then we also have what we call as hemiparasitic weeds. So yung mga hemiparasitic weeds natin, meron silang capability to photosynthesize. So they only partially what do you call this? They only partially parasitize. Yeah, hemiparasitic. Kasi meron silang means or they can reproduce on their own through photosynthesis. Yung holoparasitic naman, wala. Wala silang chlorophyll, so they depend entirely on the host plant. Okay? Now, makisipin nyo, sir, magbigay ka naman ng example. O ito, bibigay ako ng example. So dito, basahin nyo ulit. Nandiyan na yung common name ng mga iba't ibang mga weeds natin. Yung scientific name nila, ano yung life cycle, ano yung morphology, ano yung number of cotyledons, ano yung kanyang primary way of propagation, and ano yung kanyang type of parasitism. Yan. Okay? So I urge you to read it. Okay. Number 20. What is the primary difference between What is the primary difference between pre-emergence and post-emergence herbicide application timing? So again, nabanggit na natin ito kanina. Ano yung difference ng pre-emergent at post-emergent? The fact that kapag sinabi natin pre-emergent herbicides, ano yung timing yan? Ina-apply yan before pa mag-emerge yung seeds sa lupa. Kapag post-emergent, kapag germinate na yung seed, before natin ito naman i-apply. So yan yung difference lamang po ng pre-emergent and post-emergent herbicide in terms of timing. Okay? So, letter B, yung tamang sagot dyan. Ngayon, yung next na question, dadako naman tayo sa insecticide. So, number 21, sabi naman dito, which of the following is an insecticide belonging to the organophosphate class? Siyempre, hindi nyo masasagot yan kung hindi nyo talaga alam, right? Pero with this question, ang organophosphate dyan is yung dimethoate. Okay? Dimethoate is organophosphate. How about number 22? Mancozeb is classified as an insecticide, fungicide, herbicide, or nematicide. So, ang mancozeb natin, this is a fungicide. So, letter B ang tamang sagot dyan. How about number 23? The primary mode of action of pyrethroids such as cypermethrin. So, ano kaya yung mode of action ng pyrethroids na chemical? Ano yung ginagawa niya dun sa insekto? So, ang tamang sagot dyan is letter A, disruption of acetylcholinesterase activity. Or letter B, sodium channel disruption in insect nervous system. Or letter C, inhibition of photosynthesis. Which is mali na. I mean, not unless pyrethroids is a herbicide, ano? Or interference with molting hormones. So, ang tamang sagot dyan, ang pyrethroids mo, ang mode of action yan is letter B. Sodium channel disruption in insect nervous system. So, letter B ang tamang sagot dyan. Number 24, ano naman yung mode of action ng herbicide like glyphosate? So, ang herbicide like glyphosate, ang mode of action naman niya is letter C, ano? Inhibition of amino acid synthesis. Okay? Letter C. So, let's discuss, based off on those questions, let's discuss naman the different classifications of pesticide. Now, your pesticides can be differentiated into three, whether that be insecticide, herbicide, or fungicide. So, according to its target pest, kapag insekto, yung kanyang tinatarget, ang tawag mo dyan, insecticide, of course. Kapag ang kanyang target ay weeds, herbicide. Kapag ang target is yung fungus dun sa halaman, fungicide naman yan. Ngayon, meron pa tayong extra classifications. Like for example, acaricides. So ano naman ang acaricides? Ang tinatarget naman ng acaricides natin are mites and ticks. Rodenticides, ang target niyan is daga, rodent. Nematicides, nematode ang target. Molluscicides, mollusk ang target. Avicides, ibon. Okay? Aviary is a habitat for ibon. Yan. So, doon nakuha yung avi. So, avicides, ibon ang tinatarget. Bactericides, bacteria. Algicides, algae naman ang kinokontrol dyan. Ano naman ang classification of pesticides by mode of action? So, by mode of action, although merong specific mode of action, ano, talaga ang bawat pesticide, pero you can classify them according to either that be a contact, a stomach, a systemic, or a fumigant. Okay? Now, kapag sinabi natin contact pesticides, they kill the pest at contact. Kapag nahawakan or na-sprayan yung insekto mo, na-contact siya ng pesticide, patay yung insekto. So, contact pesticide yan. Kapag sinabi mong stomach poisons naman, yan yung kailangan kainin ng peste. So, kailangan kainin ng peste, saka siya mapopoison, stomach poisons yan. Kapag sinabi natin is-systemic yung ating pesticide, yung pesticide na yan, pumapasok doon sa katawan ng peste and nagso-circulate siya and then unti-unti din siyang namamatay. Now, this systemic pesticide, medyo delikado siya, no? Lalo na kapag systematically it is also being absorbed by the plant. Kasi nandun sa halaman mismo yung lason. Pag kinain mo yon, maaari rin na ikaw din ay malaso na sa human being. Yung contact, at least yung contact pesticide, kapag na-spray din yan sa halaman, and assuming na dahil nga contact din siya, dahil contact siya, pwede mong hugasan at mawawala na yun. Pero yung systemic pesticide, pwede kasing pumasok rin yan sa halaman. Yung fumigants naman, they kill the pest through the inhalation of gas forms. Now, later on, ibibigay ko yung example and then yung iba't ibang classification ng mga pesticides na to. Para you can review each pesticide, you can familiarize yourselves. And if you are familiar with that particular pesticide and its different classification by the different categories that we have discussed, mas madali nyo nakikita yung differences ng mga pesticide na yun. Now, pesticides can also be classified according to its chemical structure. For example, meron tayong tinatawag na organochlorines. Okay? So, ano ang organochlorines? Ang isa sa mga key feature ng organochlorine pesticides is that they are persistent. Ibig sabihin, hindi sila basta-basta nawawala or nahuhugasan. So they are persistent, fat-soluble, and they are bioaccumulative. So naiipon yan, naiipon dun sa halaman. So as much as we can, yung mga organochlorines, ayaw natin yan sa ating halaman kasi nag-i-stay din siya dun sa halaman and nakakain yun ng tao. Ano yung way of yung particular mode of action ng organochlorines, lalo na sa mga peste. Now, ang mga organochlorines, they affect yung sodium-potassium channels ng pests. Okay? And because they affect yung sodium and potassium, which is a very important ion in terms of muscle movement and development, nagkukos siya ng hyperactivity sa nerves ng peste, and then it could lead to paralysis. Okay? Ano naman ang organophosphate? Ang organophosphate, they are derived from phosphoric acid, but they are less persistent than organochlorines. So isipin yung organochlorines, may tiban, masyadong madikit, hindi basta-basta nahuhugasan. Pero yung glue, yun yung organophosphate. Pwede mo siyang hugasan. So organophosphate mo naman, ang particular mode of action niya is to inhibit yung tinatawag nating acetylcholinesterase. Now, kapag na-inhibit yung ACHE na yan, they lead now to the accumulation of acetylcholine dun sa synapses or dun sa nerves ng mga insekto na yan. Okay? And then nagkakaroon ng overstimulation dun sa mga nerve cells and nagkukos rin siya ng paralysis and death. Okay? So organophosphates, siguro one way to think about organophosphates is that in comparison to organochlorines, they are less persistent. And of course, another way to memorize yung organophosphates is that organophosphate chemicals or pesticides are derived from phosphoric acid. Meron din tayong tinatawag na carbamates. Now, ang carbamates, they are derived from carbamic acid naman or carbamic acid derivatives. They are less persistent than organophosphates. Okay? So yung organophosphates mo madikit, again, ang carbamates mo hindi siya ganun ka-persistent. So ano yung way of controlling niya? Same with organophosphates kanina. So they also inhibit ACHE. But their action is quite reversible as compared to organophosphates. So ibig sabihin, itong carbamates in terms of quote-unquote lakas niya as a pesticide, mas mahina siya as compared doon sa organophosphate. Kasi yung mga carbamates natin, pwedeng reversible yung kanyang effect. Okay? Pwedeng makarecover yung peste. Yun yung ibig sabihin nun. And then we also have what we call as pyrethroids. Na itong pyrethroids na to, yan actually yung ginagamit na chemical sa ating mga household insecticides. Okay? So bakit siya ginagamit? Kasi mababa yung toxicity niya sa atin na mammals. These are usually derived from synthetic natural pyrethrins, and ang pinaka mode of action naman niya is that they disrupt the function of voltage-gated sodium channels in the nerve cells. And kapag nangyari yon, they cause repetitive nerve impulses, they cause hyperactivity, and again, paralysis sa peste. So pyrethroids, ang keyword dyan is voltage-gated sodium channels. We also have, finally, what we call as neonicotinoids. Neonicotinoids, no? Now, these are systemic insecticides. Ibig sabihin, pumapasok sila dun sa katawan ng insekto. Okay? However, they are low toxin. They exhibit low toxicity, especially to us mammals. So medyo mahina rin to kasi medyo malakas yung kanyang effect, not mahina, kasi irreversible yung effect niya sa insect. Okay? So it irreversibly bind to insect nicotinic acetylcholine receptors, and then they cause stimulation, paralysis, and death. So ito yung examples ng mga different pesticides, yung brand ng insecticides, ano yung active ingredient ng pesticide, ano ba talaga yung essence ng kanyang lason, sabihin yan, ano yung target pest, toxicity level, ano yung chemical structure, and mode of action ng pesticide na yan. So for instance, ito, hinighlight ko yung mga lumabas dun sa ating questions. Like for example, yung Dethane or yung Mancozeb, no? Yung Mancozeb na active ingredient, makikita yan doon sa brand ng pesticide we call as Dethane. Ang pinaka-target pest niyan is yung fungi. So, ibig sabihin siya ay fungicide. Yan. Moderately toxic siya in terms of toxicity. Okay, so nilagay ko rin yung toxicity level dyan, basically. Ang chemical structure niya is dithiocarbamate or carbamate group. Okay? And ang mode of action niya to kill the fungi is multi-site contact fungicide. So, contact fungicide siya, and it disrupts the respiration and amino acid synthesis of the fungi. Ang cypermethrin naman, again, yun yung brand name and yun na rin yung active ingredient. Ang pinaka-target niyan ay insecto. So, they are insecticide. They are moderately toxic. Ang chemical structure niya is pyrethroid. Now, alam natin, ang pyrethroid, they disrupt the sodium channel. Ito ay contact and stomach poison, ang cypermethrin. Ang carbofuran, carbofuran din yung active ingredient niya. Ang tina-target niya is insect and sometimes it's also used as a nematicide. So, insecticide siya at nematicide. They are highly toxic at in terms of chemical structure, ito ay isang carbamate. And kapag carbamate yan, ang mode of action niya, ACHA inhibitor. But it is a contact and stomach poison po yan. How about Rogor or Perfectation? Now, Rogor or Perfectation, ang active ingredient niyan is yung dimethoate. Ang target niyan is insect like aphids, mites, leafhoppers, and plant hoppers. They are moderately toxic, but they are organophosphates. Okay? Now, as our organophosphate, again, ang pinaka-mode of action niya is ito yung keyword, no? ACHE inhibition. Ang glyphosate, they are broad spectrum na herbicide, so weeds yung tina-target. They are low toxicity, they have very low toxicity. Phosphonates or organophosphorus or organophosphate. And ang mode of action niya specifically is EPSP synthase inhibitor. Now, itong glyphosate is a systemic herbicide. Meaning, umiikot dun sa katawan ng weeds yung lason na yan. Meron ding butachlor. So, yung butachlor naman, ang specific niyan is they are specifically used to control rice weed. So, it is a herbicide. They are moderately toxic. Ang chemical structure niya is chloroacetyleniide. Yan. They are growth inhibitors and they are used as pre-emergence herbicide. Okay? And the rest, you can read it, you can familiarize yourself para mas madali yung you can read it and familiarize yourself para mas makita nyo, no, per pesticide brand. Makita nyo yung kanyang classification based on different categories that we have discussed. Number 25. The causal pathogen of potato late blight. So, alam na natin yan, ang potato late blight is, ang causal pathogen yan is Phytophthora infestans. Okay? Yung Pseudomonas solanicerum, ang tawag na dyan na bago is Ralstonia solanicerum. Yan yung bacterial wilt natin. Fusarium solani, yan naman yung Fusarium root rot, okay? Or Fusarium wilt. And Alternaria solani, yan yung early blight of tomato or early blight of potato. Number 26. Which type of disease cycle includes the overwintering stage of a pathogen? So ito daw ay disease cycle. Okay, meron lang tayo actually dalawang disease cycle, no? Monocyclic and polycyclic. Pero sa disease cycle na to, meron tayong tinatawag na overwintering stage. So, ano yung overwintering stage? Ito yung survival stage ng isang pathogen. Ito yung stage kung saan yung pathogen mo inactive, pero pwede siyang mabuhay. Okay? Overwintering stage yung tawag na yan. So, ibig sabihin yung pathogen, tulog. Okay? Tulog pa lang siya. Pero pwede pa rin siyang mabuhay. So, saan mo kaya makikita yung overwintering stage? Anong disease cycle kaya? Sa monocyclic ba or sa polycyclic disease cycle? Now, ano pa kasi yung pinagkaiba ng monocyclic and polycyclic? Na-discuss ko na rin ito. Kapag sinabi nating monocyclic disease cycle, okay, the disease completes only one infection cycle per growing season. So, isang cycle lang per growing season siya. So, merong parang biglaan na nandyan, tapos biglaang mawawala na siya. Okay? So, ano yung cycle ng disease na yon? So, magde-disseminate yung disease, mag-i-infect, i-infectan niya yung halaman, magre-reproduce siya doon sa halaman na yon, and then meron tayong tinatawag na over-seasoning or yan yung tinatawag natin kanina na overwintering stage or yung stage na tulog yung sakit or tulog yung pathogen. And then kapag meron na ulit yung favorable conditions, magre-reproduce ulit siya and the cycle will begin again. So, one cycle or the disease will complete one infection per cycle, per growing season. Okay? So kung mapapansin nyo sa monocyclic, meron na tayong overwintering or over-seasoning stage. Ano yung polycyclic, sir? Yung polycyclic, yan yung nagkakaroon ka ng multiple infections. Okay? So, ito. This one. Okay? Yung polycyclic, multiple infection cycle in one growing season. Noong polycyclic, medyo mas malala siya, no? Bakit? Kasi it continuously disseminate even though isang season lang, isang growing season lang yung crop mo. Pero again, kapag nadagdagan na ng secondary infection or multiple infection yung ating monocyclic, meron pa ring over-seasoning or overwintering stage. Okay? So therefore, ang tamang sagot dun sa number 26, yung disease cycle na may overwintering stage is both. Okay? Both monocyclic, so yan, both, sa monocyclic, meron kang over-seasoning stage. Kapag naging polycyclic yan, or, kapag naging polycyclic yan, meron pa rin over-seasoning stage. So number 26, both of them. Okay? Both monocyclic and polycyclic. Number 27, what is epidemiology in the context of plant pathology? So, epidemiology, ano kaya yan? Yan po yung pag-aaral ng individual plant disease, classification of fungal species, or chemical analysis of disease tissues. So, kapag sinabi natin epidemiology sa plant pathology, yan yung pag-aaral kung paano nag-i-spread ang sakit. So, the correct answer here is letter B. Epidemiology is the study of disease spread, disease development, and the specific control at the population level. Number 28. How does precision agriculture contribute to crop protection? So, precision agriculture, they contribute to crop protection because they provide precise data. And that precise data, you can use it to control the pests in your field. So, alin kaya dyan yung nagpapakita ng definition na yon? So, simulan natin dito sa D. Precision agriculture decrease pesticide application rates. Now, this one is true, but it is pertaining to the result of precision agriculture. But not actually, ito yung magiging result, basically, kapag nagpa-practice tayo ng precision agriculture, pwede rin namang mag-decrease yung pesticide application rate. So, we can say that this is partially correct. Letter C. Precision agriculture replaces all chemical pesticides. Again, ginamit yung word na all. Kapag nagamit yung mga exclusive terms na yan, dapat tamang hinala na agad tayo. So, yun ba yung ginagawa ng precision agriculture? It replaces all chemical pesticides with biological control that are automatically doing its own function? Probably not. Okay? Kasi ang precision agriculture, again, is the collection only of the data with regards to your pest population, for example. Letter B, by eliminating the need for pest management. So again, ang precision agriculture, it will not eliminate pest management. Nagpo-provide lang siya ng data pero kailangan mong gamitin yung data na yon in order to control the pest population in your field. Or letter A, by providing real-time monitoring of pest population for timely intervention. So sa number 28, ito po, letter A, yung pinakatamang sagot. So, ang precision agriculture, okay, ito yung paggamit ng iba't ibang mga technologies like drones, sensors, GPS, satellite imagery, and AI in order to collect detailed data with regards to your pest population. So, by providing real-time monitoring of pest population, nakakapag-provide na ngayon tayo ng timely intervention. And ano yung possible na effect ni letter A? Ang possible na effect niya is yung partially correct na option natin kanina, which is letter B. It can decrease pesticide application rate. Next, number 29. What role does artificial intelligence play in smart agriculture for crop protection? So ano naman daw ang role ni AI? Okay? So AI decreases fertilizer use. Parang hindi nagme-make sense, ano? Hindi naman porket gumagamit ka ng AI, hindi na pwede nang mabawasan yung fertilizer use mo. O pwede siguro kapag precision agriculture, ano? Kasi magpo-provide ka lang ng fertilizer na akma lang dun sa pangangailangan ng halaman. AI monitors weather conditions. Well, yes, pero malayo siya doon sa tinatanong, no? Yung role ng AI sa crop protection kasi yung tinatanong, hindi sa weather. AI completely automates all farm decisions without human input. Hindi. Kailangan pa rin po ng tao para magamit yung tool na AI in order to properly manage your farm. Or letter A, AI predicts pests and disease outbreaks for timely action. So this one, the best answer here is letter A. Okay? So the role of AI is that it can use historical data, it can analyze historical data para ma-predict yung pest and disease outbreak. And number 30, a farmer. Okay, so solving. A farmer needs to apply insecticide at a rate of 2 kilos per hectare to control armyworm in a 5-hectare field. Okay? The insecticide is available as 50% concentrate. So yung ibig sabihin, yung pesticide mo is 50% noon ay concentrate or active ingredient, nakakalason, and 50% noon maaaring tubig lamang. Okay? Yun yung formulation niya. So 50% lang yung part ng insecticide na ito na nakakalason. Now, ang tanong, how much of the 50% concentrate is needed given the given the situation na provide sa question. So alamin mo muna ano ba yung ating given. Okay? Now yung mga given natin is number 1, na provide yung application rate. Okay? Ano yung application rate daw na kailangan? Kailangan ng 2 kilos per hectare. Okay? So kailangan ng 2 kilos per hectare para makontrol yung armyworm. So that's your application rate. Ano pa yung kailangan? Ano pa yung given? Ilang hektarya yung field? So yung field mo is 5 hectares. Okay? And then, ano yung formulation? Yung formulation is 50%. So ibig sabihin, 50% lang ng pesticide yung nakakalason. So given this, ang tinatanong is ilang kilos yung kailangan natin in order to control the armyworm in this situation. So first off, kailangan nating i-derive ano ba yung total amount of active ingredient. Okay? So paano natin makukuha yung active ingredient na kailangan doon sa ating field. Okay? So yung total amount of active ingredient na kailangan, makukuha yan by multiplying 2 kilos, kasi nga 2 kilos per hectare yung kailangan, okay? Multiplied by 5 hectares. Okay? 5 hectares. So, yung kailangan natin na amount na nakakalason is 2 times 5, that would be 10 kilos per hectare. Okay? So, 10 kilos per hectare, dapat yan yung amount na nakakalason in order to control armyworm in the 5-hectare field. However, okay, we need to understand na hindi lahat ng ating insecticide nakakalason. Right? In fact, 50% lang ng ating insecticide yung nakakalason. Yun yung kanyang concentrate, 50% lang. So, kung 10 kilos yung kailangan na nakakalason and 50% lang yung ating concentrate, how are we going to compute for the pesticide or for the amount of pesticide that is needed? So that is, ang magiging formula na dyan is, kukunin natin yung 10 dito, so that's 10 kilos per hectare, and then i-divide natin ngayon doon sa concentrate niya, which is 50% or 0.5. Okay? Now, 10 divided by 0.5, that will now be 20 kilos. Okay? So, 20 kilos na ngayon yung magiging sagot natin. So, 20 kilos for that 5 hectares, yung kailangan natin na insecticide para magamot or para mawaksi yung armyworm natin. natin. So, ang tamang sagot dyan ay letter C, 20 kilos. Okay? And that ends our send-off coaching for the subject crop protection. I will be posting another video on soil science and finally crop science sa mga susunod na araw. Thank you!